Okay, so I had just a few comments, and I do have to clean this up and get things moving along for my next video. I'm hoping to get a quick War at Sea in, because Sky Marshal put in a request for it, and good buddy of mine, and I haven't played that for a while, so I might throw one of those in. And here we've got the situation at the end of the anniversary. If you haven't seen the video, sorry, spoiler, there you go, Moscow fell. And what we're going to do here is just show you what's going to happen. So Germany right now, they just collected $72. Well, they have $72. They stole some from Russia, and they also have their $15 in bonuses, and yeah, so they're doing okay. So the only thing that can happen on Britain's turn, they have $23. Now, the neat thing about the way we play this game, and I believe this is correct, is because Russia's gone, at the end of the turn, this will revert to Britain, okay? Because the Soviet Union is no longer. Now, the only way this will not revert to Britain is if these tanks are able to come in and somehow knock out these German tanks. Now, there are only 10 tanks here versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So there's 15 German tanks, and there are 10 British. So yes, mathematically they could actually win. So what we're going to do is we're going to roll that out right now. If they lose, we're going to pack it in. And we'll show you what's going on in the med as well. But we're going to see how this goes. So we have 10 tanks, so it's going to be all 10 of our threes. We're going to roll them. And who knows, maybe they'll get like 9 hits or something. Or maybe they'll get 1. Okay, we got 1 hit. Now we got 15 Germans. I need the same dice, I don't know why I moved them around. Alright, here we go. So we got 5. And then we'll take 5 more. Roll them out. None. Okay. So we've lost 5 British tanks. There goes 3, 4, 5. So they're down to 5 to 14 for the Germans. So here's the 5 British tanks. 2 hits. Boy, they did not roll well at all. They had 15 dice and got 3 hits. Alright. So 2 more. And now we have 14. They only need 5 more hits. And there you go. That's all done. They got 7. Alright. So all the British threat is gone. Now, if we continued playing, you know, if I had nothing but time, I might even just for curiosity's sake. So Britain will go up a couple here. These guys here will get probably picked up and brought over just to make them move a little faster. And then Britain will actually go and grab that as well. Now, the problem for Britain is now you've got a whole bunch of ticked off German tanks that can now blitz into Leningrad on the following turn. Like, this is just going from bad to worse, really. The Japanese are going to come across, take Archangel back from the British, right? So the British are going to pull in. Right now they're at 21, plus if we take that 4 at 25, no bonus for them. 25, and they have nothing on the board. Right? Nothing will be on the board for the Brits at the end of this turn. They start from scratch. Okay, so let's look down here after the British turn is done. Now we got the Italian turn. Now the Italians, if memory serves, have $35 to spend. Yeah, they got 35. And honestly, I would probably build a carrier with a fighter, because I've got another fighter in here that can go on the carrier when it's built. And then I have a carrier and a fighter, that's 24. So I've got 11 left. One off from a cruiser, but we're going to do that. All right, so that's going to be the build for Italy. Their whole fleet is going to come on over here. Okay, and there's 3 transports in there. Now these 2 tanks are going to come over. And the 3 transports are going to bring over these 3 tanks, this one guy, and 2 more guys from Bulgaria. Right? And we'll just get this guy to come back. This tank here. Who knows? Maybe to give the Italians a couple of bucks, go up there. Okay. So at the end of the turn, this is essentially what it's going to look like. Boy, those carriers suck. All right. I really like the ones from HBG, especially the new modern ones where you can park a whole town on those things. All right. So there we go. So now the Italians have gone up another 2. So they're going to collect 37 this turn. And they still have 1. So they got 38 bucks to spend next round. Okay, so let's get rid of the transports here because they don't defend or anything. So what we have now for the Italians is we've got 2 battleships, 2 cruisers, a destroyer, 3 subs, and a loaded carrier. Okay, the Americans have 1 battleship, 4 destroyers, and a loaded carrier, and a bomber. So what we're going to do, we're going to have some fun. Oh, I just knocked my whole tray of dice over. That's fun. We're going to roll this out. We're going to roll this out and just see how it goes. We're going to put America on the offensive because they need to, right? They need to go on the offensive. They can't sit around anymore. And I think I was too slow with the Americans. But if you watch the video, you kind of see why. It was very tough. Very tough for the Americans to move into the Atlantic because of the threat of German subs and air power for most of the game. And I didn't want to be spending a whole bunch of money on warships, and I just needed to get boots on the ground. So we got our boots on the ground, as you can see. And, you know, this battle might even go their way. And they might start to claw back a little bit. But I guarantee you that on the next turn, the Italians are going to be building 3 tanks, 3 men, and are going to land right here. And that'll be more than they'll be able to deal with. So, and if the planes are left. Okay, so let's just take these here. And I think this is a very futile gesture, but we're gonna do it anyway. And we got a couple of cruisers, a couple of battleships, and of course a destroyer. All right, so to start things off, we have the submarines for the Italians. Will not get any sort of surprise strike because there are a whole bunch of destroyers, and there are no subs for the Americans. So we're just going to launch right into it here. We'll see what we see. So we've got 1 at 1 and 4 at 2. That's what we're going to start off with for the Americans. All right, 2 hits. It's a good start. Good start. So, of course, we'll tilt the battleships. In this version, of course, they still shoot at full strength. And then we've got 2 at 3 and 2 at 4. All right, so 2 at 3, 2 at 4. Hey, pretty good. 1, 2, 3. And because they don't have any subs, 4. All right. So now we've got the 4 Italian subs and the destroyer and the carrier. Here we go. Ooh, that's not good. Hey, maybe they'll do all right. Now we got 1, 2 at 3, and 4 at 4. So 4 at 4, 2 at 3. Here we go. All right, so 5 hits. Okay, so we're going to have a tilt. That's 1. And then, can the American planes, they can't land anywhere, so this is kind of, they're on the attack anyway, though. So that's 2 and 3, 4, 5. Okay, so now we're down to, we've got 5 units versus 7 units. So it's actually a pretty, I didn't think the Americans would do that well, to tell you the truth. All right, so now we've got a 2, 2 3s, and 2 4s for the Americans on the attack. That one wasn't there. You didn't see that. All right, so we've got 3 hits. It's pretty impressive. So 1, 2, 3. So we've got a 2, 2 3s, and 4 at... So we got a 2, 2 3s, and 4 at 4. All right, needing 5 hits. And there you go, all 5 hits. So that takes care of the U.S. threat. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So, again, this is kind of one and done for the Americans. We could do this battle as well, but I won't waste your time. That's pretty much over. And, of course, we're going to have Japanese tanks coming over, right? Like this is it's just math now. It's not even a game anymore. This is just a futile existence for the Allies. So that's it, folks. Not much else to say. I think in the Pacific, the Americans have to do their turn, of course. They'd obviously skedaddle, but there is only one place for them to go that they cannot be caught on this round, and that is Sea Zone 65. Then the entire Japanese fleet will go up to 57 and crush it the following turn. So, yeah. Anyway, good game. Went into the 11th round, and it was fun to play. But on to War at Sea, folks. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. We've cleaned off the Anniversary Edition game, and now we're getting into a little War at Sea. Now, for those of you who haven't seen my War at Sea videos, I have done away with the maps that have all the squares on them, because I prefer to have more of an open world concept when I game, and I use a tape measure similar to things like Warhammer and things like that, where you use a tape measure to see how far you are from your opponent, from your target. The game comes with all these nice cardboard pieces here, which work fine, right? They absolutely work fine. But I've decided to upgrade, and I've got all these here. These are all acrylics. They're all printed acrylics, and they're easy to read. And there you go. We'll be using mines in today's game, and we'll put some explosions on and some smoke and fire. Now, I got all of these from Historical Board Gaming. Highly recommend them. They really do make your game a whole lot more fun. It's easier to pick them up, and they really pop on the playing surface. A lot of fun. Now, the mines we're going to be using, essentially, if you get within 2 inches of a mine, you roll a die. If you get a 1, the mine strikes you for a damage. If you get within 1 inch of a mine, you roll 2 dice, and if you get a 1, then it does a damage. And if you run over the mine, you roll 3 dice, and if you get a 1, you get damage. Now you're thinking, well, that's not a big deal, just 1 damage. Well, some of the ships we're using here are pretty thin on the old armor and the hull points. So the Cossack, for instance, right? It's just a destroyer. It's only got 2. The Belfast has 3. And the King George has 5. So getting a damage can actually cause a lot of problems. And it even affects things like the extended range on the King George. So now that I'm over here with the British boats, we're going to show you what we got. We got a couple of land-based Halifax bombers. We got the King George, the Belfast, the Cossack. We've got a carrier, the Ark Royal. It's going to be carrying a couple of swordfish. That's these cards up here. And then, of course, a couple of submarines to head out in front of the pack to, well, scare off some of the enemy ships. And then over here, we have the Italians. And the Ascari's already taken a nap. Stay. All right, I don't know, I might flop over again. Yeah, it looks like it's had a rough day. All right, so here's the Italians. We got the Ascari, of course. We've got the Ambra. It's a submarine. It's way out front here. Pretty small little boat. And the Julio Cesar. It's a battleship that was, well, it's a decent boat. We got 2 Antelopes. These are these little destroyers. They're basically some hunters, right? So they're out there trying to take care of those British subs, the truculents. Got a motor torpedo boat, which again can be a threat to submarines, but it also has 3 torpedoes at a range of 0. We'll explain the range in a moment. The Littorio, this is the big heavy hitter for the Italian Navy, and it's similar to the King George. It's a point less than the King George, but pretty much the same stats. And the Bolzano, nice heavy cruiser, and it's going to be doing quite well here. And as you can see, if it's within range 3 of an enemy ship, it can go a little faster. Typically, all the ships can move 2. The San Giorgio is an older boat, and the San Giorgio is, I think I want to say it's like World War I vintage, but I could be wrong. But it's a pretty old boat. So it's got something called slow 2. So at the beginning of the movement, you roll. If you get a 2 or less, a 1 or a 2, it only moves 1 space, so it can fall behind. So what is spacing when you don't have space? I've just got this fabric that I picked up. It kind of looks like the sea and the sky all at once. I think it works pretty well. Well, very simply, from 0 to 4, okay, is a range of 0. From 4 to 8 is 1. From 8 to 12 is 2. 12 to 16 is 3. 16 to 20 is 4. And then 20 or more is 5, which of course rarely comes into play. And if you're not familiar with the game, there is a movement phase by one group, then a movement phase by the other group, then the attack and the attack. And the movement phase happens, and then the planes come in. Now, there's not too many planes. There's no planes on the Italian side, and just a couple of bombers. And then, of course, the swordfish. Now, the swordfish are fantastic if they get through, but they only have an armor of 3. So when they shoot anti-aircraft, typically these guys just get sent back, unfortunately. But if they do squeeze through, sometimes they can cause some damage. The Halifax bombers, a little bit better armor, and you can see they're going to drop 10 dice on you with the bombs. Okay, fantastic. And unfortunately, this is it's got something for it though. Whenever this unit makes a bomb attack, it only scores hits on 6s, right? So it's usually you're going to score hits on 4s, 5s, and 6s. It's only scoring on 6s, but it does get 10 dice. Okay, and a hit is a hit. So, and if it goes after subs, which there's only 1 sub, you get an extra die. So it's interesting. 149 points for each. They both have a heavy hitter in their battleships. After that, the Italians have a better surface fleet, but the British have air power, which can harass them right from the very beginning. Anti-aircraft works very simply. In the game, typically, you can only have 2 per square. And then when you attack a boat in a square, then that boat is protected by another boat inside that. So, of course, you can have 2. So that's how I've worked it here, is you have to be within range 0, so 0 to 4 inches, and only 1 other boat can help do anti-aircraft. So before the planes attack, you see the anti-aircraft. So perhaps the Littorio is being attacked. It'll get 7 dice and try to force that plane to get out of there. The Bolzano's pretty close here, so it'll get 6 dice as well. So if I sent all 4 planes at the Littorio, they've only got 2 anti-air that can be used. Okay, so the planes have a good chance of getting through. The thing about land-based aircraft, they can only attack every second turn. That's why we have this here, rearming. So when it flies back to land, it's done. Carrier-based aircraft have no such restrictions. They can just head on out. All right, so we're going to get going here. It's a 7-round game, or until half, this is kind of a house rule, but half of the opponent's points have been sunk. So that would be 75 points for each side. So really, you want to protect your battleships, because that's 50 points right there. All right, we'll let you see how it goes. Just a moment. Okay, round 1, usually there's not much damage because only the planes can get at each other, and typically they don't survive. But yeah, the planes survived. They came and focused fired here on the poor Bolzano and got 2 hits on it, and it only has 3 hull points. So 1 more hit and it is sunk. So yeah, not good for the Bolzano. Just not enough anti-air. But we'll see how this goes going forward. Maybe they can get lucky and start shooting down some aircraft. Now the bombers, they are the ones who got the hits. The swordfish didn't get any hits. So for this round, the bombers are rearming. They can't come back and shoot again. So they are out of the picture for round 2, 4, and 6. Here we go. Round 2 coming up. All right, round 3. I didn't show you round 2 because it was very boring. Just the boats kind of moved. But round 3 was very exciting. Yes, unfortunately for the Italians, it was exciting in the wrong way. The Littorio Got a couple of hits it absorbed. One from a torpedo strike from a swordfish. That only did 1 damage because it has a torpedo defense belt on it. And the other was from the from the King George. The King George got into range and was able to blast away. And so 2 hits. And it has a hull point of 5. So 3 more and it's glug, glug, glug. The Bolzano, still carrying its 2. You see the 2 antelopes, these 2 little sub-hunters here as they are. They're really classified as destroyers, but they're sub-hunters. They only move 1 space at a time, very slow. And so the Italian fleet really didn't move on turn 3. And there you go. But the Scari has been sunk by the Belfast. The Belfast was able to pop it from long range, and so it'll be removed, unfortunately for them. And of course, we've got the Ambra, the little sub that could, trying to get out there and do some damage. On this side, well, the Italians got a little bit of vengeance, and the Cossack was destroyed by the Julio Cesar. The Julio Cesar, of course, over here, took a shot and was able to destroy it in 1 shot. So as we look at this, we now have 7 points for the Italians. And then there are, as we look over here at the Ascari, 6 points for the Brits. But the Brits have landed some more shots here. But right now they're equal in number of ships sunk. Now, you're probably asking, well, now that we're getting close, is it just a slugfest? Well, yes and no. Now, in this scenario that I've developed, the Italians are in their home port. This is kind of like the Taranto raid, sort of. And the British are coming in to try to destroy the Italian fleet at port. Unfortunately, that means that there's mines set up. They're set up by the Italians, and we've talked about them already. Plus, the Italians get to kind of hunker down behind cover and pop out and blast away if they want. Otherwise, they can just kind of lure the British in. Now, the British only really have 2 surface ships left that are capable of shooting, whereas the Italians have 6. Now, the Antelopes are very, very weak. They're not going to be sinking anything, even with their main guns. But they do fire torpedoes, and they do have depth charges. They're basically sub-hunters, so these subs have to be careful. We also have the motor torpedo boat. It can move 3 in a turn, so it can really fly, which is a lot of fun, and it can absolutely devastate if it gets lucky. Now, there are some neat things about this guy. He's got a very, very thin hull. He can get sunk very, very simply. Like 1 hit will sink it. Essentially, but it can actually do a die roll when it gets hit. Okay, it rolls a die. If it gets a 5 or a 6, it actually evades the damage. Okay, so that's pretty cool. It just means it's too small, ducks underneath it or whatever. Just kind of, it's that whole idea that this thing is only a few meters long, right? It's not these big hunking things you can see from 100 miles away. So here we go. We're going to go with round 4, and no bombers this round for the British. The bombers are back here rearming, and we're going to keep the carrier back where it's safe and send out the swordfish, and hopefully they can score some hits. But the British have to come and get the Italians, so we'll see how the Italians handle this. They may actually retreat back this way, go back this way, forcing the British to come through and try to get them before the end of turn 7, because that's the limit. And that might be a thing to do. Belfast will probably be rolling some dice, hoping not to hit mines. And George will probably go around the island where there are no mines. And of course, there is no restriction on air. Air can fly all over the map. So the carrier can stay there. All right, we'll let you know how round 4 goes. All right, round 4, and no damage was done on the Italian fleet, but, yes, you guessed it, no damage on the British fleet either. But it was really, really close. Well, there was damage, I guess, on the Belfast. I was just thinking about this because this was the latest thing. That little Italian torpedo boat came in and took a shot and unfortunately missed for the Italians. But the Belfast did take a hit from the Julio Cesar. It's on fire. Well, it's not on fire. It's, you know what I mean. All right. The Swordfish, no hits. But now we're on to round five. Round five. And the Bombers are going to be back into it. And they might have to go after some easier pickings here if they want to get their point count up. Right now, the Italians are winning. Some people also count these as points at the end of a round. I typically don't, but kind of I don't know. I'm a bit more of a purist, but you can. It's obviously an option. Oh, and the Belfast skipped by the mine, and no damage was done. All right. Round five coming up. Here come the Bombers. Well, I'm just going to kind of pull back here and let you see the destruction. My goodness. It was a cavalcade of destruction. So we'll start here with King George. Actually, a sub. The Ambra, the humble Ambra, fired and got a hit, put one damage on. And then, of course, the Lotorio, long range, boom, at the very extent of her range, was able to put one into the George. And then the George fired back and missed. Nothing there. Over here, we have a destroyed sub. Well, how did the sub get destroyed? Well, very simply because of the little antelope. Yes, the little antelope that could came over and dropped 4 depth charges because it's within range 0 and sank the truculent. So the truculent is gone. But unfortunately, this poor fella also received a torpedo from the truculent, and we have mutually assured destruction. This one here got taken out by aircraft, so it couldn't actually do anything in the combat phase for surface combat. So I just absolutely left it on there so you could see it. Over here, the Belfast died a horrible death. It was carrying 1 damage as it came through, and it was finished off by these 2 heavy ships, the battleship Julio Cesar and the heavy cruiser San Giorgio. San Giorgio did receive 1 shot from the Belfast. And the San Giorgio only has 3 hull points, so yeah, got to be careful. Of course, no more damage done on the 2 big ships in the back. But over here, yes, the little motor torpedo boat that could came in and was able to put in 2 torpedoes into the HMS Ark Royal, and with a hull points of 4, 1 more hit with a torpedo will actually sink this boat. So there are only 2 rounds left, and the Italians, well, let's do some math here. So we've got a British truculent, that's 12 points. And we've got the Belfast, that's worth a few more at 14 points. So that is 21 plus 12 is 33 points for the Italians. Meanwhile, we have a destroyed antelope. That's worth 4. And that is it for... Oh, we got 2 destroyed antelopes, right. So that's 8. So that's 8 and 6. That's 14 points for the British. 14 points and 33 for the Italians. The Italians are winning this one going away right now. The Swordfish and the Bombers are going to have to be really, really lucky. And the Bombers don't get a shot this round, so the Swordfish are going to have to do something. And this pesky torpedo boat, good grief, it's only worth 7 points. It's doing some hefty damage. I'll have to see what we can do about that in just a moment. Okay, second last round. Oh, this got interesting. Here we go. The little sub that could came in and took a shot and missed. But the King George did not miss. In fact, it did a 1-shot, got 10 damage in 1 shot, and that is the vital armor on the San Giorgio. So the San Giorgio goes away. These 2 ships didn't have much to do this turn, so fired at the King George with the Littorio and missed. No radar-controlled guns, unfortunately. And, oh, shoot, I forgot to do this attack. This is where I could use those little attack symbols we use for other things. So anyway, what we got here is we got a truculent. It's within range 0, so that's going to be 4 dice, and only 6s count. And this is against the Julio Cesar, and yeah, it will be interesting to see and get some hits. If it gets 4 hits, it's an auto sync. Here we go. Oh, look at that. 5 hits. Holy cow. All right. So there you go. That is it for the Julio Cesar, because it only has 4 hull points, and each torpedo hit is a hull. Oh, it's got torpedo defense. So each torpedo hit rolled against this unit deals 1 less point of damage. So I don't know why I counted that 5, by the way. So instead of being 4, it's actually only 2 hits. Look at that. I didn't know that the Julio Cesar had that. So just 2 damage. All right. Well, that could be a problem next round, though. Might have to try to just outrun the submarine. But there you go. And down here, the little torpedo boat that could not. It failed on its attack on the Ark Royal, and the Ark Royal had 4 dice and actually got 3 hits on the little guy. Rolled to try to get out of the way. A 5 or a 6 would keep it alive. Rolled a 3, so it is dead. So we're just going to add up some of the points here. Little torpedo boat. That's 7 more. As well as the San Giorgio, which is 17 more. So that is a lot of damage happening now for the British. They're getting their licks in. So we have got 7 plus 8 is 15, plus 17 is 32, plus 6 is 38 points. Unfortunately for the British, one of their swordfish got shot down, and that's 10 points. Pretty pricey, and it's that expensive because it can fire 3 torpedoes. That's why it's that expensive. So we got 10, the truculent is 12, so that's 22, and then we've got another 21 here, so that's 43. 43 points. So the Italians are winning. They got 43 points. And the British, 23 plus 50, 38. So 6-point difference. So the British are going to need an insta-kill here to try and salvage a victory. Not too likely, although they are here on the last round going to be using their bombers again. So the bombers, coupled with the fact that the King George is within range of all this stuff and should be able to stay in range, might get lucky. We'll see. It's going to be an interesting final round. Will the British succeed? I'll let you know. And a fairly anticlimactic final round. Some hits were scored. Nothing on the King George, but 1 more was landed by the George at long range. Actually, it was 2 pips off of a vital armor. They got 12 hits. A few 6s. And I got 12 hits, but you need 14 to sink the Littorio outright. Over here, the truculent was able to put 1 more into the side of the Julio Cesar, but it has 1 more hit point remaining. So it is still afloat. And, of course, nothing happened over here. The planes all went after the Julio Cesar. It was able to, actually it missed on its anti-air roll, but both planes missed on their torpedo and bomb runs. So nothing there. And the little sub here, pretty far away, and it missed with its torpedo shot. So what we end up with is, by points, an Italian victory. And it would be interesting to see if there could be any sort of way for the British to win this. I don't think so, though. I think the Italians have got it. And they can't outrun the King George. The King George is in the perfect position to just keep blasting away at long range. And if these ships decide to charge the Prince George, they'll get probably sunk one after the other. Now, the Julio Cesar is pretty tough. It's almost as tough as the Littorio, actually. It's got a vital armor of 13. But with only 4 hull points, even 1 more hit on its armor of 7, which is very, very easy for the King George, would sink that, and that would be a 34-point swing, which would give the British the victory. And the Bolzano, who had 2 hits on it early in the contest, never saw another hit get placed on it, because one more would have sunk her. So it was a very close match. Got to give it to the Italians here. The British just needed a few more surface vessels, I think, to compete. When they lost the Belfast, that was pretty much it, because now it's only one ship that's shooting the big salvos. And the Belfast isn't shooting that many dice anyway, but it's certainly had more punch than a little destroyer. All right, well, thanks for watching, folks. Happy New Year. Today is New Year's Day. Just kind of chilling, and I hope you enjoyed that. Have yourself a great 2023, and as we always say here, hug your loved ones, thank your friends for playing, and as always, may the dice be with you.